Hi, and welcome back to the Genetic Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lulu. On this week's episode, Ryan Kimball discusses everything you ever wanted to know about the ketogenic diet and how to use it to increase longevity and expand your vitality. Ryan is a certified ketogenic lifestyle fitness and health coach with a unique background in personal counseling and self improvement. He's worked for over 20 years helping others to improve their health and happiness. He knows from working with individuals from all walks of life that anyone can improve their condition in life and achieve their goals so they can create the lifestyle they've always dreamed of. It's been his privilege to have a career in helping others. This has given him a lot of experience finding what works and what doesn't. He has found that without health, everything else is harder, if not impossible. From the overweight, overworked parent, to the young adult with a compromised immune system, to the talented, career-driven individual who needs a body that will keep up, to the aspiring young athlete or the matured person looking to enjoy a life of activity and vigor. You name it, he's worked with them. With all his experience in helping others and the adventures that go along with delving into improving a person's health and wellness, he has come to find that there's no one size fits all. Everyone has individual needs that require a customized lifestyle, and he helps figure them out. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Genetic Genius Podcast. I'm so excited for my guest today, Ryan Kimball. Welcome.
Hi, Dr. Lulu. Nice to be here.
Yay. I'm so excited for our conversation today, all about keto, because keto is so fun to talk about. There's so many different avenues we can go down. So before we jump into that, I'd love for you to just, introduce yourself so we can get to know you a little bit better. What's your passion? What's your place on the planet? What you got really ignited and excited for what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Ryan Kimball. I'm a ketogenic health coach and life coach. And I love to work with people who are interested in improving their health for whatever reason. I don't like to say, oh, I just do ketogenic for weight loss or something like that. I really like to work with people where they're at and doing what they want to do. Yeah, for me, I guess the passion part of it is that I'm able to change somebody's life with simple tools that anybody can use. And it doesn't require that they do something extravagant, even. Everything that I teach and work with people on is so personally usable. I want them to be able to embrace it in their life and create an exciting, fun, enjoyable lifestyle out of it. Not just, oh, I've suffered through this dietary program and now I'm a little thinner or I don't have my arthritis anymore. I want it to be something they can do for their entire life.
I love that. That's amazing. And what got you started? Was there something, did you, try the keto out for yourself, or what was it that really ignited your beginning with it?
I've been interested in nutrition for so many years, and I helped manage in upstate New York where I live, Ithaca, a nutrition clinic. And we have several practitioners here. And there was always a piece of seeing people change and do things they wanted to do and become more happy and healthy in life that really attracted me to it. So after years of managing it on the administrative side, I started to do certifications, and I became a ketogenic coach and a life coach and a fasting health coach and a number of other things. I'm always doing some continuing education, so to speak. And it was just the idea of being able to help people with those type of things. And then for me personally, it was the style of life, eating, dietary fitness that really worked for me. So because I was using it all the time, I could relate to helping other people with it. So it balanced things for me of, this is something I want to do anyways. And this is something I know helps so many people. Let's just mold these together. It's been really invigorating as a lifestyle change for me to be able to do something that I love doing all the time.
That's fantastic, Ryan. And I love that when we have that piece where it's just really something that we see the benefits so much within ourselves, and then it ebbs and flows out into our practice because our patients and clients wow, what are you doing? You feel great, you look great. And then it's so easy for us to help people in that way.
Exactly. When it's natural and it's part of who you are, it just flows. And people can see that. They resonate with you in that way.
Totally. Okay, wait. Let's talk about the ketogenic diet in the beginning. Like, what is it? Let's just start there because I think there's so many different like myths out there about what it is, and let's just break it down.
Absolutely. And it's great because recently, over the last couple of years, there have been a lot of people who are more into a healthy lifestyle with everything that's happened recently and whatnot, and want to make changes that are positive. So the ketogenic diet has become more and more popular. Unfortunately, along with that, there's been some information about what it is that might not be the most accurate or might not work for everybody. So I'm big on using your own biofeedback system, which is your body. There's literally trillions of data points, you could say, in your body that are always telling you what's going on with it. And you should model your lifestyle and how you eat around the information you're getting from your body. So I actually don't concentrate on just being low carb or having specific macros or a certain caloric intake. What I'm actually more interested on is making the person metabolically flexible
Mm.
so that they can burn fat for fuel easily
Mm-hmm.
and can shift between that and burning the other sources of energy as well. Because I don't know of anyone in the world who's going to be low carb all the time. I haven't met that person yet. There'll be holidays, there'll be situations where your body needs to be able to adapt to the situation. Now, yes, being low carb is the basic principle of ketogenic diet in many ways. If a person can have low carbohydrates, usually that means 40 to 50 or less grams per day, moderate fat and protein, higher amounts of fat usually, although I work with a lot of women, about 80% of my clients are women. And often we start with more of a ketobiotic diet. So we ease into it where we don't just cut those carbs really fast because that can create a sort of detox and other non-optimum keto flu situations. So we
Mm-hmm.
work on building up the microbiome, we work on building up nutrient density in the body, and the body will naturally evolve into being able to have a low carb, healthy lifestyle. It shouldn't be a struggle. It should be something you gravitate towards because you're giving your body the right signals and treating it in the right way so that it becomes fat adapted, which we're all born fat adapted. We're actually able to make ketones when we're babies,
Right.
and we train ourselves out of it over the years by the lifestyle that we live these days. That's a lot of information, but that's how I approach it.
No, that's great. I love that. I love the term too that you use the metabolic flexibility because that's really important for people to understand. It's not every single aspect of any nutritional plan or any diet is going to be like cardboard cookie cutter, like black and white for each person. We have to be flexible to allow that change and shift within each of us. Are you still there? Oh,
Yeah, sorry, it froze for a second.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I'll cut that out. It's saying my internet is a little unstable. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. The picture's
Okay.
freezing a bit. That's all.
Okay. If it does, that's okay. We'll just continue to talk and it'll catch up, I think. We'll just splice this
Okay.
part out.
Okay,
um,
cool.
okay, great. One thing about the ketogenic diet or the keto diet that people always hear is, oh yeah, you can eat all the bacon you want, every little fat source. And I'd love for you to like bust that myth a little bit too about it's not just like 100% bacon and cheese and all those things that can be not always the best choice when we're talking about long-term
Right.
nutrition.
Exactly. No, I agree completely. Yeah, and that's one of the things that is used as more of a marketing tool to attract some people, I think, but it's
Yeah.
not really how you're supposed to operate. Who wouldn't want a diet where you can eat bacon all the time? That was one of the selling points for me. No, not really. But yeah, no, I definitely go over what are healthy fats with people right at the beginning because this is often something that isn't fully understood. So we definitely want to have sources of grass-fed fats. So like grass-fed butter, obviously everything organic if you can possibly manage it. Grass-fed eggs, pasture raised, etc. They have a lot of healthy fat in them. And then any of the meats you get, the fattier cuts of meat, if you're going to get ground beef, go for 80-20 instead of the lean cut, the 90-10 or something. But again, you want grass fed and you want it to be organic if at all possible. So you want these healthy quality, high quality sources of fat, and then you want to have like coconut oil, you want to have olive oil, these types of fats. You strictly, and this is true if you're doing ketogenic diet or not, you should always stay away from the refined vegetable oils. That's just mainlining poison, basically.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not,
Like canola oil or yeah.
yeah, canola oil, soybean, corn, all of these vegetable oils are definitely not optimum for a person. And the thing about it is, people think, well, I cut out all my carbohydrates and sugar. I'm like 20 grams a day. Why am I not losing weight? Actually, these unhealthy vegetable oils can spike your insulin and can cause all sorts of toxicities, which prevents your body from losing or being willing to lose body fat. So these are almost as detrimental on the insulin level and spiking your insulin as the sugars are in some ways. So it is super important. In fact, I would say the diet program, a ketogenic program, will not work if you're having unhealthy fats, if you're not using the right fats like coconut oil, olive, healthy grass-fed butter, eggs, fatty meats that are healthy, any of these things.
Oh, great. Thanks for that clarification. I love that. That was wonderful. What about, can you do a vegetarian ketogenic diet?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes, you can. I did recently with one of my clients that, and it was pretty amazing actually. Obviously, you have to navigate it you have to really plan. And the person I was working with wasn't a strict vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
They allowed eggs and things like that. You have to find sources of fat that are fitting to your vegetarian lifestyle and also allow you to have healthy. It's often very easy to go into those sources of unhealthy fat, the canola oils, etc., to try to get in enough fat. But if you stick to the things, you can have butter, coconut oil, olive oil, eggs. You could make a really healthy diet just out of that, as far as
Mm-hmm.
like your base of fat. And then obviously a vegetarian, tons of vegetable options. And protein is abundantly available these days for vegetarians as well.
That's
So
right.
it's
And
very
vegetables have
doable.
protein.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for clearing that up too, because I think, it's important for people I think there are certain stigma isn't the quite word, but yeah, like an image, right, of the keto diet. And it's great to have the clarity about what it is specifically and then the forms. And one other piece is, how does it differ from paleo? Because I think those are, words that those two are thrown back and forth a lot in the caveman alternative food diets.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand. I was paleo before I started working with the ketogenic diet myself. So I had a transition there. And a lot of the clients I work with are already eating healthily and they're trying something like a paleo diet. So it's an easy navigation because paleo, obviously, grain free, you're eating things that were of that era
Mm-hmm.
and you're having that high protein. Often you have some fat built in there, but usually people who eat paleo are eating these paleo friendly goodies and
Right.
paleo
Snacks at the
friendly
store.
snacks. Exactly. And all of those tend to be, at least the majority, I would say, tend to be high carb. So
Mm-hmm.
they're feeding the carb machine, so to speak, and they're running on glucose. They're not running on fat. So
Right.
it's a real simple transition though, because the person doing paleo is usually paying more attention to the quality of food as well. They're usually
Mm-hmm.
eating more organic, I've found anyways. And you can just go, okay, good. So we're going to cut out these high carb options and we're going to add in some low carb options. And there you are. You're already in a keto style diet. So the main difference I've found between the two is that you have to address the carbohydrate load. It's pretty easy to eat high carb and still eat healthily, especially with all the options that are out there for paleo bars and paleo cookies and all these things. They're really high carbs. So
Right.
yeah,
That's
that's
so
what you got to
true.
navigate.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
find that when I was doing, I've done both, and I did find that with paleo is that you can eat sugar on paleo, and no, it's not a refined sugar, but still because you have that
option.
Yeah.
I think that it does gear people sometimes more towards eating, like you said, that carb and getting the snacks at the store and maybe not reading the labels as easily as they should.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It says paleo, so it's in.
Right. Yes. And there are lots of keto things like that out there too. There's a specific cereal that looks like an old cereal from like the 70s, I think, but it's like keto style. So yeah, I think eating whole foods in both of those is sounds like what you're saying is important.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, just to speak to the keto style foods out there, some of them, even though they say keto, they're not really conducive to a long-term healthy keto lifestyle. They're using a lot of sugar alcohols and substitutes for the high carb. There's this one bread out there that's fairly popular, and it's got, wheat gluten in it and wheat products, and a lot of people are sensitive to that, but
Right.
it's keto. So
Right.
so it's just something to pay attention to. Not all the other information about how to be healthy is pushed out the door just because you're doing keto style.
Exactly. That's super important. I love you brought. Let's talk about reducing toxicity in the system, like cellular toxicity and adipose tissue. How does the ketogenic diet help with that? You mentioned like the keto flu earlier. How does the keto diet help to reduce toxicity in the system? And especially from that adipose tissue view, where the adipose tissue is holding on to those toxins.
Exactly. Yeah. So your body uses the fat cells to store toxins. It's not to say there can't be other toxicity levels in the body and different organs and whatnot, but the body holds them and maintains them in the fat tissue, the adipose tissue. When you start doing the ketogenic diet, your body is now using those possibly toxic resources for fuel. So if it's done in a too aggressive a manner or without a detox concurrent, you can get heavy symptoms of keto flu, or the person's very headachy or lethargic or whatever non-optimum keto flu symptoms are occurring. So what you want to do, and what I usually, that's why I talk about the ketobiotic aspect of it. You're really building up the microbiome and you're supporting the liver and the kidneys with healthy foods that allow your body to detox more efficiently as it moves into a ketogenic state. So the body is built to detox. That's why we have these organs that are detoxification organs.
Right.
Right?
Yes,
Why
so
else
important.
would they be there?
Yes.
Yeah. So as you support those first, and as you build a microbiome that allows the body to break down the friendly gut bacteria, allows the body to break down and eliminate toxicities more efficiently, I shoot for having zero keto flu with my clients. If I have it, and it's very rare, I'm usually backpedaling quickly to find out what we missed so that we can remedy it and get them into a healthy ketogenic state quickly, where they're naturally detoxing at a rate that their body can handle.
Like a slower method instead of just boom.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
realize when a person detoxes heavily and they get these headaches and they get these symptoms, it's also a stressor physically on the body.
Right.
It's going to raise their cortisol. It's going to throw off hormone levels. That's going to raise insulin. And that's not helpful for weight loss or symptom management or anything.
Yeah. And long term, right? You don't want to have that extra
Right.
stress on your body for sure. Okay, great. So it sounds like the keto diet really helps with that detoxification piece, especially from the fat cells. And is that one of the reasons why it's easier or elevated to lose weight when you're on the keto diet? Can you talk a little bit about that piece, and also ketones and ketogenesis, so that people can understand that part of it?
Yeah, absolutely. When the body is trained, or relearns, might be more accurate, to burn fat for fuel, it is then able to burn body fat for fuel. So the progression I try to have people go through is getting healthy, getting their gut biome, microbiome, all of that going, supporting the organs that need it. And as they move into becoming keto adapted, they are basically taking the fat that they're eating, turning it into ketones through a series of chemical processes. And when it becomes a ketone, it is then used for fuel. And it's similar to what the body does from carbs to glucose.
Right.
So it turns carbs into glucose, burns it for fuel. Then fat to ketones, burns it for fuel. There's more to it, and there's different ways, but for broad strokes, that's generally how it works. And then as the body is burning the fat that you're giving it, the healthy fat that you're giving it, if you do it correctly, you can eventually start changing it up where you raise the person's protein a little bit, lower their fat intake a little bit, and you'll start burning a lot of body fat for fuel because the extra protein creates a thermogenic effect on the body. And the lowered fat requires your body, which is now trained, to burn the body fat for fuel. And you can lose weight actually too quickly. So you have to like sometimes gear it back a little bit and make sure the detox processes are keeping up with the.
Oh, that's great. Great explanation. Because I think that's a really important piece for people to understand. It's all a huge part of the ketogenic diet. You do want to understand like how your body's working and why it's having the shift. And what you said about that retraining piece. And that's important a lot for a lot of changes in nutrition plans anyway, right? You're doing this retraining for healthy lifestyle and changing for optimal health. You don't want it to be not like this quick shift where your body has to have this quick detoxification, but also you want to have, like you said earlier, have these things that are really ingrained for lifestyle longevity, not just like, oh, this is it for the moment.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing about the longevity piece also is that when the body is able to burn fat for fuel, there are fewer toxicities that have to be eliminated after your body's been cleansed, so to speak. So it's more efficient and cleaner to burn fat for fuel than to burn carbs or sugar for fuel. So it is the more sustainable way to run your body is learning to burn fat for fuel the majority of the time.
So it sounds like it doesn't take as much energy, so to speak. So you have more energy for other things, correct?
Yeah, exactly. People talk about that kind of energy high you get from burning fat for fuel. And it also then allows you to start fasting, which is a whole nother topic. And something I always do with my clients is have them fast because there's so many health benefits from that. But really, the only way to easily and efficiently get into fasting for the most part is getting keto adapted. And then your body just starts to want less food less often because it's able to process things more efficiently. There's a lot more energy from a gram of fat than a gram of carbohydrate or protein. So it lends itself towards this fasting protocol in life. And that is great for a person's long-term health and their health span. We don't want just a lifespan. We want a long health span where we're really enjoying life for the entire time we're living it. Right.
Yeah, exactly. It helps with longevity and also like that from the anti-aging piece, so to speak. Or I think we're really in this new phase of changing the vocabulary around aging, especially our particular generation and the generations coming up. I think we're tired of that like term. I don't want to be stamped when I get to this specific age. I think the typical medical model, right? They have all these different mile markers of when you're this particular age, this has to happen. So it creates this whole persona within our health image, like, oh, I'm at this age, all these things have to happen. And I think that is a huge shift we're going to see on the horizon.
Totally. And I've seen people coming into me requesting to learn how to not be a part of that stigma or whatever you want to call it, that nomenclature that lends itself towards a certain evaluation of where a person's at. They want to be themselves. They want to feel like they've always felt. Ideally, you feel like you're in your 20s all the way through life and living this. So
right, exactly.
Why not? Why not? Yeah.
Yes, I'm 100% for that. Let's talk about from the inflammatory perspective, because I think this is a huge piece. And if we're reducing toxicity, how does the body reduce inflammation, or is ketogenic diet helpful for that? And then also, what about the chronic and autoimmune piece? I'd love for you to address both of those kind of like together, and they're separate. They of course are a marriage.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Inflammation leads to autoimmune, obviously, in many cases. So I've had a lot of experience where I'm working with somebody because of how the ketogenic diet is known. They come to me for body composition reasons. They want to be leaner, or some guys are now coming in who want to be more muscular and they use the ketogenic diet for it. But the point is that I'll be working with someone on becoming leaner, losing body fat, and all of a sudden they're saying, I can run again and my knees don't hurt. Or my back no longer aches when I wake up in the morning. And this is all because of the anti-inflammatory nature of a ketogenic lifestyle. So I don't think you can put your finger on just one thing that causes the ketogenic diet to be anti-inflammatory. The oils we talked about earlier are all inflammatory, the harmful oils, the corn, soybean, canola oils. So by eliminating those bad fats, you're lowering inflammation, but also by changing your body's ability to burn fat for fuel. When you burn sugar for fuel, there are more anti-free radicals that require more antioxidants to neutralize, so to speak. So
Right.
when you're doing the ketogenic diet, you don't have those to deal with, and your body's able to deal with other things. So the inflammation goes down there as well. The other thing is that often a person gets off of grains because most of those are high carbohydrate. So
Right.
you're eliminating the gluten factor with inflammation as well. So it depends on the person. It could have been because they had a gluten allergy that was subclinical, that it wasn't even noticed. But when they did the ketogenic diet, that inflammation went away. Usually, I would say it's a combination of many things that cause the inflammation to go down.
Exactly.
And yeah, and then as far as the autoimmune piece, as the body's form, and this is what I found. There probably a lot of other reasons for autoimmune being improved on the ketogenic diet. I'm definitely not an expert in all autoimmune diseases, but I have noticed that people who I'm working with who have something going on, like a thyroid condition that's causing them to be just extremely unable to engage in life or have any energy or have other symptoms, or they have IBS and their gut is just a mess. We're not even necessarily addressing them in the way that classically those would be addressed. Obviously, we're not using any drugs, but we're also not just saying, okay, here's your restricted diet to repair your gut. We're just working on being able to burn fat for fuel. And I've noticed that as hormones seem to balance out, like sometimes we do blood work and when those hormones balancing out, all these things start to take care of themselves. The hormones run the body and it starts telling the body, okay, stop attacking yourself. And here's how where this should go, and this is how this should operate, and everything starts to work better. So that's been my experience and what I can speak to on that for sure.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And it's so important to have that piece of inflammation addressed. And I really liked what you were talking about. You're not really, that's not like the 100% focus, but then it becomes the great side effect. Because you're having
Yeah,
this,
exactly.
because you're, and food, and when we address the food component as like the foundation, we have so many things that we see that were bothering us, so to speak, in a symptomology aspect that then shift in the body. And then we're like, oh, I wasn't really expecting that to happen, but look. And I think that's a
Right.
great thing about working with patients from the nutritional aspect. Just sometimes this can be changing little things, like you said, like removing inflammatory grains in there. They're like, oh, wow, I'm seeing so many things that have shifted in the way that I feel.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's always amazing to have all these side effects you weren't expecting that are just so invigorating and health affirming and help you in so many different ways. It's the way healthcare should be, I think, really.
Yes. Yes, it's changing. It's
Yeah.
changing. What are some of the other major like physiological dysfunctions the ketogenic diet helps to address in the body, like brain function? What are some of the other main ones that you see or studies have been done that are the most beneficial when switching or starting a keto diet?
What I've noticed is people have a lot of change in their energy levels and in their cognitive function. Memory improvement is often one of those positive side effects we talk about. And it's really amazing. The brain is made up of, depending on who you're listening to, about 70% fat. And as you are having all these healthy sources of fat in your diet, you're feeding the ability of your brain and nervous system to operate and then give the information needed to the person so they can think clearly and cognitive function goes up. Type 3 diabetes is often what is used to refer to different Alzheimer's symptoms or dementia symptoms, right? So we are totally reversing any insulin resistance and symptoms of that nature with a ketogenic fasting lifestyle. And usually if a person comes to me and we've been working together a few months, we've reached all body composition goals or the first things they came in for, we're then working on energy and cognitive function. And we do that often by having them really dial in on fats that help them on a cognitive level, like having more MCT oil and grass-fed butter and eggs in their diet and these type of things that support healthy brain function. And then on the energy level, again, MCT, but also on the energy level, I start to work with them on being metabolically flexible, as we mentioned in the beginning. So I'll have days where they're eating a higher carbohydrate diet for a day, healthy carbs, mind you, talking maybe some sweet potato or something like
Right.
that.
Not like toast,
Uh,
white bread toast or something. Yeah.
yeah, no ho-hos. But yeah, having these options and a metabolic flexibility allows your body to be able to produce energy at a whole new level and sustain it. You know how people are
Mm,
saying, well, I'm sleeping 7 hours a night. I used to sleep 8.5 and feel tired. And now I
right.
wake up and I'm ready to do my morning workout, or I'm ready to get
Mhm.
all the kids to school or whatever it is. Yeah, those two, cognitive function and energy levels, are often just so key to people in life. They feel so
Mhm.
much better. They can get so much. And that for me, that's where it led into becoming a life coach. I was originally just working with people on their health, and then they feel amazing and now they want to do all these things with their life. So how
Like,
do we
yes,
set
next
up,
thing.
conquering the world? And I'm like,
Okay, I
let
better
me
get
add
my
that. So it's an evolution, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. And working with people on mental health and emotional stability is
Mhm.
very rewarding as well. And it's so long term that, you know, and it's one of the original reasons the ketogenic diet was developed, was for the ability for children, especially with different mental situations, to improve their state and sometimes even overcome them. So
Right.
that now we're taking that full circle, and it helps with adult mental health as well.
Yeah, so important. Yeah, and I love
Yeah.
that piece because the brain, everybody wants their brain to be engaged as much as possible, as we, especially as we were talking about longevity. We want to have this brain that's functioning at its maximum. And what do people say, or the studies show that we only use a certain percentage? We're not even at the maximum ability right now to be able to use our brain.
Right. Yeah. 10% they say.
It's
So
crazy. 10%. Oh, can you imagine when we start using even like 50%, what that's going to look like?
exactly. No, I think it'll be a whole different world. It probably is hard for us to imagine what that would be like at this point, but I'm ready for it. It
I
sounds good to
know, me
me.
too. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Can the ketogenic diet be used long term in its full form, or does it need to have adjustments and modifications done for a longer term lifestyle use?
There's a lot of opinions on that. And
This is a great
I
one,
think
right?
exactly. I think there are some people who seem to thrive on it long term. Personally, the most success I've had working with clients and for myself is after you've achieved certain goals as far as body composition or whatever it is the person's working on, if they're trying to handle inflammation or digestion or whatever, then to start, once you've gotten to that point where you're pretty set, to start working on metabolic flexibility. Because realize we're supposed to be able to use a lot of different forms of energy. The three main ones, of course, carbs, protein, and fat. But if your body is always using fat for fuel, then especially with women and too low carb of a diet for too long, I've seen it mess up the hormone balance, especially premenopause when women are trying to have children and things.
Hmm.
So I usually go with more of the keto diet that encompasses really high quality vegetables, which sometimes raises the carbohydrate load a little bit,
Hmm.
and also having days where the carbs are a little bit higher so that they can produce the hormones that are needed or that are helped by certain higher carbohydrate foods. And there's even fruit out there that's superfoods, that cures and helps so many different things.
Hmm.
It doesn't really make sense to me that these are things we should not eat ever. So,
Right.
yeah, just logically speaking here.
Yes, logic brain,
Yeah.
Mr. Spock.
Yeah. So the idea is, let's be able to use these different forms of fuel. I'd say about 80 to 85% of the time, I usually have people on low carb. And then their 10 to 15% is when they either are out with family and they're not able to stay low carb, or they're trying to indulge in some certain foods to help certain things that have a high nutrient level in them that helps with the production of progesterone, for example, like, quinoa, sweet potato, these things help with that. We could go into that's a whole different subject, but to answer it succinctly, I don't just stay low carb all the time.
No, that's great. I think you addressed that perfectly. And it's important, I think, because that's a common question. Am I going to be staying on this for the rest of my life? What is it going to look like? And I think that you answered that really greatly. What about lab testing? Do you recommend specific labs that be done before, during, and or after someone's doing that major time of the ketogenic diet to look at specific markers, I don't know, like liver or cholesterol, to have some kind of like base and then see the improvement at the other side?
I don't personally use that as part of my regular program. However, at the clinic where I work, we're often having people doing lab work. So if somebody comes to me and they know that they have trouble with their liver, or fat digestion's always been a problem, their gallbladder acts up, whatever, I will have them do a panel, and then we'll go over that. We'll use that as a tool to say, okay, we're going to give you we use whole food supplements. So we'll give you these supplements to help with liver support or renal function or whatever. And we use that to get them ready to engage in a more ketogenic lifestyle. We do try to prep the person. And then, of course, after they're doing better, we always have them redo it and have them look again just to make sure we went in the right direction. But generally speaking, that only is about 10% of the people I work with. Most of the people I work with are in a place where they're just ready to get going and there's no major symptoms that make me want to do.
Yeah, that's important. I think it depends on the person, I think too, right? Some people are like, they want to have that data. They're like, I want to see it in front of me. Yeah. So it really depends on the purpose. Some, like you said, some people are like, I'm just ready to go. Let's do this. What about
exactly?
Yeah. What about a specific DNA testing? Have you had patients, or do you run DNA testing or with your clients where you're looking at how their body responds to specific fats or specific carbs or exercise? Do you use that at all with your practice?
We don't, and I know you're the expert on that, so I would be more than interested in suggestions. Yes, no, it sounds fascinating to me, and I could see how it could be totally helpful, but it's just not something I have a knowledge base in to work with people on it.
Yeah, no, I was just interested. It's just I love the body. It's so fascinating. And the genetics, of course, add this other piece and just really interesting. So I was curious that if you did use that component in regards to the ketogenic diet. Can we go back and talk about fasting? Because you mentioned it earlier, and I think that is a great piece today for us to address, is the intermittent fasting. And that's also a thing. I think that there's, I don't know, maybe like a myth around that too, about what it entails. And so I'd love for you to talk about what it is. Why is it so important as one in its own? Because people will do it when it's not part of the ketogenic diet, and then also in conjunction. So if you could talk about those things, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I often tell my clients that if we could work on nothing else, we would do fasting. It's just so powerful. And it's a longer route to accomplishing a ketogenic state in the body, but it will accomplish that without going into ketosis first through diet. To me, it's a little more stressful just to start fasting cold turkey from a high carb diet, but it's definitely possible if you have the will, so to speak.
Right, the strength.
The strength, yeah, mental and physical. But yeah, fasting is absolutely incredible with the amount of benefit it gives, and it is so easy to do. You just stop eating. What could be simpler?
Right. And what's the time frame on that?
So generally speaking, we start with intermittent fasting, and you have a 16-hour window where the person does not eat any food. They can have liquids, non-caloric liquids like teas, coffees, water. Yes, lots of water, please. And even drinks that have electrolytes in them that do not also have carbohydrates or sugars in them.
Yeah.
And that can be had during the fasting window, the 16-hour window. And then in the 8-hour window, they would hopefully a ketogenic diet, but however they normally eat would be fine as well. And that is the beginning of fasting, where you're having between 14 to 16 hours of no eating. And when that occurs, the body starts its own repair program. It's got this built-in software, you could say, that when you stop eating, it starts to kick in around 15, 16 hours and does this whole detox phenomena. It's called autophagy. Fairly recent discovery on the horizon of science, so to speak, where your body actually starts to recycle broken or not fully used or damaged protein or eliminate them. It can change the structure of the amino acids into something that's usable, or it can get rid of them.
Right.
It also lowers the load of bacteria, viral loads, fungus, mold toxins that come from those type of things, and does all of this simply by stopping eating around 16 hours. Usually everybody's a little different, that starts to engage. And then from 16, and this will vary, everybody's metabolism is different, we all have different fitness levels, health levels, so this is just rough numbers, but 16 to 24, you're in this autophagy state, and then you're detoxing all these things. As long as you keep your fluids high and you do it on a gradient, I wouldn't recommend starting with a 24-hour fast. Start with 12 or 14 and build
Right.
up
Work
to
up to it.
yeah, and unless you're like into abusing of yourself. So
Yeah.
you want to do this slowly and work up to it, because you also don't want to stress your body and raise your cortisol levels and your other stress hormones. So once you get up to around 24, you're really in a deep state of autophagy and ketosis. Your body has really eliminated almost all sources of glycogen or glucose in your blood, and it's really just burning ketones for fuel, which is where you want to be when you're handling insulin sensitivity and you're improving your metabolic health. Around 24 hours, stem cell regeneration and production gets stimulated. And this is amazing. So yeah, we all know stem cells. There's enough research on that and information about how that's used to handle all sorts of illnesses and regeneration of the body. So this is just stop eating and you'll start have stem cell therapy right delivered to your door, so to speak.
UPS, whip stem cell.
Yes, right. And it'll just be a note that says stop eating for 24 hours.
Right,
And then
exactly.
you're good to go, right?
Yeah.
So after 24 hours, this stimulation of the stem cells, they don't necessarily just focus in one area. They're usually moving around the body and they're used where they're needed. And a person can go up to 36 hours. This is considered a longer extended fast. All during that time, you're having the autophagy phase, you're having the stem cell regeneration. And there's another thing, right around 20 hours or so, there's a hormone called human growth hormone that starts to kick in. And it's been found that when you exercise in a fast state, again, this would be a more advanced fasting, but I'm just giving a quick rundown here.
Yeah, don't start this tomorrow. If you're listening
don't
out
start
there.
This. Just do,
yeah.
Intermittent fasting. We don't want anybody calling us up.
This could definitely put you in a severe detox mode and make you ill if you went right into this.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not for beginners, but you start stimulating the human growth hormone. And it's been found that people who exercise while in this fasted state for up to 24 hours have as much as a 1,300% increase in human growth hormone, which is the hormone that obviously helps our body improve its lean muscle mass. It's the anti-aging hormone. It's like the holy grail of hormone for long-term health, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
So those are the main benefits I know about fasting. Just a few there to
just
get people started.
Right. Yeah. Intermittent fasting. I love it. Thank you. That was great. It's good for people to understand, because it's a big piece of the ketogenic diet that sometimes it's not talked about as much. And no, it's really important piece in conjunction with the nutritional aspect. Another piece I wanted us to talk about, maybe busting this myth a little bit too, is if I am on the ketogenic diet, will my cholesterol increase?
It depends on the person's body and where they're at, of course. That's the first statement. But it has been found that when people start, I've only found this with one person. There are different studies that have been done where the person is eating a lot more fat, right? Healthy fats, but some of those healthy fats help produce cholesterol.
Right.
And sometimes they're in the bloodstream. They haven't been absorbed yet.
Exactly.
So the person does a test. Yeah, the person does a test and it looks like the cholesterol is high, when actually, I'm not saying that couldn't be the case in some scenarios, but what I found, the person who came to me, actually one of the goals was to handle cholesterol, ended up going up a little bit at the beginning. And what we figured out was they were producing a lot more healthy fat. They were actually able to metabolize fat resulted in more cholesterol being produced that they could use. It was healthy cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like their cholesterol was a little higher than it was, going in the wrong direction, basically. And they were already on their way to having to, be taking drugs and whatnot to handle it. So
Right.
we were really trying to figure out. And what we found was that it was in their bloodstream, but their body was getting more efficient at using it. And within a few days, they were actually getting into the range they wanted to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Then it got totally handled. And that was one of their big successes of the program, was that their cholesterol was the best they'd ever had. It has been a lifelong situation, and it completely handled because they were able to reteach their body how to use fat for fuel and
Right.
fat for the metabolism. Realize cholesterol is made from a process that, includes the fat that you eat, whatnot. So
yes, and the liver.
and the liver all work together. Yeah. So I found that it did go up in one person I worked with, nobody else. I've heard
Mhm.
that it can go up because it's in the blood and it hasn't been
Mhm.
absorbed yet, and you are eating a
Right.
lot of fat. But my experience has been that it actually helps and creates a very healthy situation in relation to cholesterol.
Right. Yes, I've seen that with my patients too. And I think, yeah, it's really dependent, like you said, on the patient. And if there's I see if there's like a genetic component coming in, it really depends on what we're working on. But I love that you explained too, that, that piece that's in the blood, because our body is shifting, especially on the ketogenic diet, where the liver is working, we're seeing different things happening. And a blood test of cholesterol is just a little snapshot. It does in that moment in time. And it's not giving us something on either side of it. Particularly sometimes we'll see the glucose or HbA1c, a longer view of that. But yeah, it was great.
Right.
Yeah. What about the kidney? Now, I know that I've heard some people say that, and this is another myth, maybe, if someone has kidney concerns and they're eating a lot more protein on the ketogenic diet, do they need to be concerned about kidney filtration, or just have some of those concerns on their radar?
Yeah, I had someone who had a little problem with protein as well as oxalates that they were eating a lot of.
For kidney
they were like,
stones.
so they were kale junkies. Like it was like 2 kale shakes a day. It was too
Wow.
much kale. It was actually before I understood. It was a learning experience for me, what was going on, but it wasn't just the high protein. It was that they were actually eating things that had too much of a load of oxalates in them, and it was causing a lot of function, and they were having pains in their kidneys, et cetera, et cetera. It wasn't a new thing. It's something they'd lived with, but this exacerbated it a bit. So I think, yes, pay attention to your body. And if you have trouble with something, doing the ketogenic diet doesn't stop you from having trouble with that thing anymore, right?
Right, exactly. Yes, pay attention to your body out there. That's important.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's why you work with people. And the thing is, sometimes I think I've gone over this with clients before. You walk into to work with a practitioner or a doctor like yourself, and they turn it all over to the person they're working with. And,
right, like, here you
maybe,
go.
here's what I know. I'll mention half the things that go on with me and you figure it out. Right. So the whole point of what we do, I think, is to educate the person and allow them to be responsible for their own condition and communicate everything that's going on, even if it means writing up a whole list so that it can be read in between appointments or before, ideally. And then using that as, yes, if there's stress going on in the kidneys, or there's pain there, or you've had trouble, processing protein, or have high protein levels in your urine, etc. We always try to check for these things when we notice symptoms, the person mentions it, and give a renal support, or sometimes it's another organ that's falling down on the job.
Right.
That's causing the kidneys to have to take up the slack, so to speak.
Exactly.
And it's really not, it's not renal support they need at all. They need something for their liver or digestive thing. It's a little puzzle to figure out, but being aware of what's going on with the body is definitely the first step.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's super, super important. We tune out sometimes of what the needs of our body are really listening. And I do appreciate that as part of the ketogenic diet. It's a different piece of awareness, especially that fasting piece, because you're scheduling different things out throughout the day where you're like, okay, this is my time for this. It's a lot of awareness instead of just let's just eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it makes for conscious living too, which often is so helpful in our process on improving ourselves. You're consciously engaging in your eating and fitness lifestyle, which just that alone sometimes solves a host of things.
Oh yeah, so important. And what about
Yeah.
other specific lifestyle components? Are there other things that go in conjunction with the keto diet, exercise or sleep? Are there other things that you're really addressing, like the foundation that is important or is very specific for the keto?
Yeah, for me, obviously everyone's different, and sometimes they come in with some specific things that they want to address.
Right.
Since I'm doing life coaching with things now too, I get this whole smorgasbord of things to work on. But specifically to specifically to the ketogenic diet, sleep and exercise are definitely super important.
Mhm.
Realize the body is in need of a lot of extra rest and repair sometimes in order to get into this new metabolic state.
Right.
It doesn't happen when we're in the fight or flight mode. The repair and the building that you need to get into a ketogenic state occurs when we're in rest and repair, when our body's sleeping, or when we can move into that state when we're living our life, which is possible too. And then the exercise aspect is also a key piece, especially when the person's trying to handle insulin resistance or they're trying to work on their body composition. It's good for anything, of course, but those two
Right.
especially I found it to be useful for. So the thing with the exercise is that unless the person's already super fit athlete and all that, we start out very slowly, because
Mm.
what we're trying to do is train the body to use ketone when it is in an exercise phase, when you're
Mhm.
engaging the body that way. So it's important to start out in a way that allows your body to adapt. It's not to say you're not going to change into burning some glycogen while you're exercising, and
Right.
you're going to use protein, of course. But the idea is to also, there are elite athletes now who are running 50-mile races that are doing it in a ketogenic state, and they're in ketosis before, they're in ketosis afterwards.
Mhm.
And just to mention it, they're also sometimes eating 100 grams of carbs a day, but
Right.
because they're exerting
Yeah, a lot of
several
output
many
has to have
thousands
input.
of calories.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, obviously none of us are doing that, or at least I know but you can make the body do what you want it to do if you do it on a slow enough, baby step enough gradient, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
And
true.
that's important with the exercise. If you do that correctly, you'll get into the state where you're building muscle using really healthy fats and proteins, and you'll be able to sleep more deeply. You'll have a longer period where you're getting more out of your sleep. Usually I have people shorten their sleep schedule on the ketogenic fasting diet and feel more energized. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah, that's always nice.
Yes, totally. And I think a really important piece you said too is you have the exercise start out slow, all of it slow. You don't want to go out and run the marathon tomorrow when you're starting a new
Yes, yeah.
program,
Give,
like,
give
yeah,
yourself a couple weeks. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Cause like you said
Yeah.
earlier too, it can put your body in a huge state of stress.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yes, totally. Brian, it's been so great to talk to you today. I think we could probably talk for a long time about all different
You know, I
aspects
was
of.
I was thinking that a minute ago. I was like, we're gonna keep doing this all day.
I
Yeah.
know, right? Totally. Let's wrap things up here. I have a couple, another question, then we'll
Okay.
talk about how people can find you, all that. So, if you had an
Okay.
unlimited budget, what would you do right now to use that money to make the biggest impact on the health and welfare of the planet?
Oh my gosh, that's an amazing question. I think it would be an education process,
Mm.
really helping people understand what it is that makes their body work, makes them happy, why or why not they might not be doing well, being happy and healthy, prosperous in life, like an education piece, so that they could then make choices that would
Mm.
lead and direct the flow of what we do in society. If everybody tomorrow said, okay, I'm only eating organic grass-fed food and I'm only working with holistic practitioners who listen to me and help me with everything, they don't just give me a drug or whatever, we would have a whole different landscape. And that's going to come about because the awareness of individuals. And I think the most effective way I can think of doing that is educating people and helping them understand things so they can make the choices that help them the most in their life.
Super. I love that. Ding, you got that one. That one's great.
All right.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Okay.
So important. Education is 100% like part of changing and empowering yourself, like really having that impact. And where can people find you? Website? How can they follow you?
Yeah, so I have a website, longevityfitnessandhealth.com, www.longevityfitnessandhealth.com. And you can find my services on there, a little bit of information about me. You can reach out to me. There's a contact page. You can also follow me on Instagram. This is probably where I do the most activity as far as social media goes, and that's at Longevity Fitness and Health. I'm also on Facebook, the same handle, at Longevity Fitness and Health. And of course, you can always email me. I am usually really good about getting back within 24 hours. And that's info, INFO, at longevityfitnessandhealth.com.
Super easy. I love that. It's great when everything is very easy in one place.
Yeah,
And you
I
also
tried
have
to do that.
yeah, totally. You also have a freebie. Can you tell us a little bit about the free guide that the listeners can get?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the website, you can definitely go to it, and it's very obvious that it's there. But if you want to go to the exact page, it's longevityfitnessandhealth.com/free-guide.
Great.
And this is just a guide that I put together that helps a person start, no matter where they're at, whether they're advanced or just beginning, overweight or not. These are tools that help them become metabolically flexible. So it's not just
Mm.
something that's going to make you lose weight for a couple of weeks. It's actually, how do you start prepping the body? There's 5 different points in there. How do you prep the body to become metabolically flexible? And this creates that long-term leaner body composition, longer health span for us, and all the other benefits we're looking for, that type of thing. Yeah, I think if somebody followed those 5 points, they would get a lot of benefit, even if they didn't do anything else that I work with them on. So highly recommended.
Great. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes so everybody can find it really easy. And thank you so
Right.
much, Ryan. I loved our conversation today and I can't wait to share it with everyone.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed talking with you and the experience of being on your show. So that was great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.